So Ted Cruz was questioning Sally Yates. And by the way, at this hearing, it was regarding the Muslim ban. And of course, her going against the executive order. So this is important because kind of like we did with Gorsuch, and they on the left said, can you believe, look at Al Franken own Gorsuch. I thought it was important with this. We wanted to wait for this to happen. And then right away, I'm seeing all over the leftist websites, right? Ted Cruz gets crushed by Sally Yates. Ted Cruz gets humiliated. Watch him get absolutely beaten down on every single leftist website. So we always want to be fair with you, and I don't think it's right to just show the highlights that where we think Ted Cruz performed best, just as we did with Neil Gorsuch. We took what they showed as their team members, their A-team's best plays. So let's show you what the left... Did Ted Cruz really get crushed? Well, let's provide more context, not less. Let's start it off.
Are you familiar with 8 U.S.C. Section 1182?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Well, it is the binding statutory authority for the executive order that you refused to implement and that led to your termination. So it certainly is a relevant and not a terribly obscure statute.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I slipped that one in. They didn't include that. That is not what they led with.
I love Ted Cruz.
But it did precede the exact clip that is making the rounds on the leftist side. So this is Ted Cruz's question and Sally Yates' response that is being praised as an absolute crushing defeat for Ted Cruz. So this is the actual clip. Let's play this so we can talk about it here.
By the express text of the statute, it says, quote, whenever the president finds that the entry of any alien or of any class of aliens into the United States would be detrimental to the interests of the United States, he may, by proclamation and for such period as he shall deem necessary, suspend the entry of all aliens or any class of aliens as immigrants or non-immigrants, or impose on the entry of aliens any restrictions he may deem appropriate. Would you agree that that is broad statutory authorization?
I would, and I am familiar with that, and I'm also familiar with an additional provision of the INA that says no person shall receive preference or be discriminated against in issuance of a visa because of race, nationality, or place of birth.
That's important. We'll come back to that.
I believe was promulgated after the statute that you just quoted, and that's been part of the discussion with the courts with respect to the INA, is whether this more specific statute trumps the first one that you just described. But my concern was not an INA concern here. It rather was a constitutional concern.
Oh, Ted Cruz got served. Okay, listen, you watch that. First off, again, I watched it. I said, I don't see this as a crushing defeat. I mean, you know, the Sierra Club, Ted Cruz, that was crushing. That was really embarrassing.
Yeah. I watched that to get my jollies on.
Yeah, Gorsuch, Franken.
Yeah.
That
happened.
Franken thought he could corner him, volley back over. In this case, it seems like two smart people. He asked a valid question. She gave an answer, which is a valid answer depending on sort of the premise of your argument, and we'll get to why I don't think it's a particularly valid answer, but this is the clip. This is the clip making all the rounds on the leftist websites. So let's provide more context and show you exactly what occurs after this clip, after the ownage.
There's no doubt the arguments you laid out are arguments that we can expect litigants to bring, partisan litigants who disagree with the policy decision of the president.
He's a bit of a smug little, smarmy little lawyer.
The Department of Justice issued an official legal decision, a determination by the Office of Legal Counsel, that the executive order, and I'll quote from the opinion,
staying to legal, staying to actual law,
with
to
respect to
quote,
form and
to precedent. Important to note.
That's a determination from OLC on January 27th that it was legal. 3 days later, you determined, using your own words, that although OLC had opined on legality, it had not addressed whether it was, quote, wise or just.
Preempting her argument. That's very smart.
And I
as
also,
a
in
legal
that same
tactic.
directive, Senator, said that I was not convinced it was lawful. I also made the point that the Office of OLC looks purely at the face of the document, and again, makes a determination as to whether there is some set of circumstances under which
we're providing some of her answer here for more context.
Would be enforceable, would be lawful. They importantly do not look outside the face of the document. And in this particular instance, particularly where we were talking about a fundamental issue of religious freedom.
Okay, all right, okay. Listen, you can go watch the full clip after this, because we wanted to show as much context as possible. I encourage you to go watch the full clip and make your own judgments. First off, let me tell you, I don't think anyone really got owned there. I watched this and I thought these are two sharp people from different sides of the coin having an intellectual argument. And I thought it was a pretty good match of wits, even though I would agree with Ted Cruz more. Now, if you think that she owned him, when you take the entire context, it's because you believe several things. First off, okay? So this is why I say everyone has a worldview. Everyone has a prism through which they see the world. We don't need to back away from it and say, well, I'm not an ideologue. Those people are two ideologues. So you need to understand the ideology of both people because that matters here. And whether you like it or not, that applies to the courts, unfortunately. We have activist judges. So the ideology needs to be applied. You need to understand how you view certain issues. First off, her argument is predicated on the idea that liberals care about religious freedom. Then her argument is predicated on the idea that the constitutional rights apply, American constitutional rights apply to non-citizens. Not only to non-citizens, but not only like green card holders or temporary workers here, but to people who merely want to come here. In other words, anyone who says, I want to be to America, she believes, or at least she's arguing, that they are entitled to constitutional rights. I don't believe that's the case. And finally, she makes the argument that fundamental religious freedom, so let's assume that, okay, this is a religious freedom issue. Let's assume that non-American citizens, people just wanting to come here, have constitutional rights. Let's go with that. She said this is based solely on nationality or birth, the executive order. That's her justification for going against it, but that's not true. This is not just based on nationality or birth. This is based on a national security risk. A country, or a list of countries here, seven countries, I believe, yeah. From which we're talking about war-torn lands where people are burned alive, and they're kind of notorious for not integrating into Western society. It's not because you were born in Syria. It's because Syria is a crap hole where people are burned alive and people with lisps are being thrown off rooftops. So the question comes, is it a national security issue for us to say, you know what? People are coming from countries where they haven't gotten it right. They have yet to get the correct answer on the quiz. And if you think that that's not a national security risk, then you also have to believe that these people, any Tom, Dick, and Harry who says they want to come to America are entitled to constitutional rights and religious liberty. By the way, this idea, it'd be like, imagine this. If someone came from a country saying, all right, I want to become an American citizen. Okay, great. By the way, I practice religion that has me kill people every Friday night. Wait. It's not the religion, it's the fundamental actions that have been carried out in your country and the policies that have been determined by your religion and where your allegiance is. I think there's a discussion to be had there. But again, you can only believe if an ownage took place, you can only believe that took place here if you're looking purely from your ideology and you're taking everything, if you're watching a short clip like HuffPo would show you. Hey, this video is taken as a clip from the full show, daily show at louderwithcrowder.com/mugclub, where it's available exclusively $69 a year. That's less than $6 a month, less than 2 expensive cups of coffee, or you can feed an African child. But what you want to do, just buy coffee or join the Mug Club. Daily show, louderwithcrowder.com/mugclub. See you there. Don't feed children.